everybody, and welcome back to another tiny... Wait, this isn't Toonkind. This is
Yeah,
Reelkind.
no. You fool! We have fooled you!
At 12 frames per second. My name is Magic, and I'm going to be playing the small Reelkind known as Croak.
Yeah, and I'm Radda Tunes, and I will be playing the tiny Reelkind known as Xorblee. He is not a bird. Croak is a bird.
Oh, lovely. Alright. Just an opening thing. Xorblee, this is a normal day. Well, kinda. You're working on your can. What are you doing right now?
He's kind of like got the can in a mostly dormant state. He's like, it's still got like the wheels and stuff out, but in terms of like power, it's kind of running on like a reserve because he's working on making some repairs inside. So if you're looking, if somebody was looking in from the outside, all they would hear would be like random like construction sounds or mechanical things. Even though he's not a tune, it's just very loud equipment relative to his size. So he's like trying to figure out, okay. So he's got like a panel open inside, and he's like trying to figure out, okay, does this wire go to this? At this point, it's not clear what he's working on.
Yeah.
But he's definitely working on something.
Hey Xorblee. Hey,
Yep.
You hear a small thunk from the front of your can near the steering wheel in the front entrance.
That's enough to get Xorblee to jump and glance back to see what the heck was that.
There is a small, Reelkind bird, decked out in what looks to be a dress covered by a sweater and a blue scarf. The scarf and the sweater obviously Toonkind made, but the rest of it looks all real. And they have a Larry mask strapped to their belt on the side, and they are currently face down in your can. They have just fallen through the front window.
Can I help you?
This bird, this bird pops up their head and looks at you for a moment before scrambling to their feet and they start walking like a circle around you, trying to, inspecting you, trying to find something.
Now, I will say, this is a relatively cramped space because, remember, this is only the size of a sideways soda can. So, it's if you're walking around Xorblee, you're like shifting sideways trying to get past him and everything, and he's just like, what are you doing here?
Croak takes one of your arms and then compares it next to their arm, and they're just looking back and forwards between them. You can roll an insight check if you want to try to find out Croak's intentions.
Xorblee's gonna insight, but he's not good at insight.
It's fine. This bird. That's the
wrong dice spot.
Wrong dice command. That's a 14. This bird is trying to compare themselves to you. Some reason? It's probably because they're a Reelkind, and you're a Reelkind. They might be trying to figure out how you are both Reelkind.
Xorblee's just glancing between the two. It's like, no, I'm not a tune either. I know, crazy in this world full of tunes. It's, yeah. Who are you again?
Croak kind of pauses, and then lets go of your hand in a manner of like, oh, right, and holds out their like wing hand, and just goes, Croak.
Croak. All right. Xorblee's gonna take the wing hand thing and shake it. Xorbleegok.
Croak nods, and would you like to roll history on this Reelkind bird?
Sure.
This is history to see how much you know about this bird, by the way. Oh,
Nat
that's a nat
20!
20! Alright.
He forgot their name, but remembered everything else about them, except for their name.
Alright. Alright. This is a bee hummingbird, native to the island of Cuba. Hummingbirds typically drink nectars from flowers and eat small insects for protein. Their wings can beat up to 80 times a second and can fly up to 20 to 30 miles per hour. The nests they build are roughly the size of quarter, I can speak, and they lay eggs as small as green peas. These birds do not migrate, as their habitat is ideal. They have an adaptation to cold weather of nighttime with a technique called torpor, where their body heat decreases drastically and their heartbeat slows down. Predators consist of large birds, frogs, fish, and tropical spiders. Their lifespans are estimated at 7 years in the wild and 10 years in captivity. This species is on the near threatened list of endangerment, and bee hummingbirds are the smallest birds in the world, but this is definitely not what they should look like.
A chair is.
Look,
Oh,
Xorblee probably saw a nature documentary once.
oh god. He probably did, but I was not really expecting you to just recite the Wikipedia article.
I didn't. I wrote that.
That's just even more impressive.
Oh boy. Yeah. You now have a small Reelkind hummingbird staring at you. Just like it's a this is not what a bee hummingbird. It should not be standing on two legs. It should be flying. It should not have a mushroom on their head. Yeah.
I mean, even if this bird is Reelkind, it's clear that this place has this place is kind of more magical even outside of the Toonkind elements. So Xorblee's just kind of gonna shrug and accept it at this point. He's
Nice.
been here for a few months at this point. He's probably like heard about some of the other bigs, maybe like one or two Reelkind bigs out there, and how they might also be birds or might also be magic. It's like it's
Yeah.
not Toon exclusive. He's
Yeah.
kind of figured that out by this point, so it's just kind of like this is just how Croak is. He's not gonna question it.
Yeah.
What he is gonna question is, besides comparing themselves with being Reelkind, what else do they have to do here?
Uh. Does he say that out loud?
I mean, there's definitely a look of confusion on his face, even after the introductions are complete.
Croak holds out their hand again, and just goes, "Same."
Same.
And they nod.
Xorblee thinks for a moment. Both Reelkind, both not Toons, both tiny. Same. And he'll shake the wing again.
Oh, Croak is ecstatic. Like, Croak likes making new friends and new family. This is fun. And and Croak, can I roll a perception check to look around the can? Because
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
20 plus that would be 5. All right, that's an 11.
11. So this is a very strange nest you found yourself in, because it's all metal. The outside was metal with weird rubber things on the sides. The inside is metal with a bunch of little metal things inside. Sure, there's like the one like soft thing in there that seems to be for the purpose of sitting on, but everything else is metal. There's this big rectangular metal thing that has a piece taken off, and whatever the hell's inside is inside. There's like the metal steering controls that you probably wouldn't be able to identify as steering controls. It's like it. I don't know if Croak's been inside of a very industrial area before.
No.
Probably not. So this is literally just a weird metal tube with random metal objects inside.
happens to be flashy? Like a light, or maybe a button?
In fact, this, like, even though the can is running on reserve power, the keyboard on the computer that you would not be able to identify as a computer does still have some flashing lights that are used in case of emergencies. But they are flashing so that, Xorblee knows that they still work. Unfortunately, Croak does not know what these things do.
Yeah.
Now, like, while Croak is, like, looking around and kind of just taking in the sights of this weird, like, shiny gray tube, Xorblee's gonna be, like, trying to, like, yeah, okay, well, now that we got that out of the way, I've been kind of busy here, so just give me a sec to... And he crouches down and starts fiddling around inside that open panel again.
Huh.
Assuming that Croak will not do anything stupid. This is a poor assumption.
This is a very poor assumption. Croak is going to look at one of the more flashy objects and get, like, really close to it, and their beak is probably gonna touch it on accident.
Is it like a very light touch, or is it a touch enough to push it?
Probably a touch enough to push it.
Roll me a d10.
A d10! That's a 10!
You turn on the lights.
Oh!
Like, I could post the light cantrip in here, but really it's just you turn on the lights inside the car.
Croak.
And that.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm curious what Croak's reaction would be.
Croak lets out a startled beep and, like, wherever the light is, it like lights all around, or is it just certain point where the light came from?
It's like, you probably didn't notice it before with the perception check, but there is, like, a very small LED light at the top of the can.
Yeah, Croak just kind of, like, jumps away from it, like, oh my god, that thing just produced light? What the heck is that? Hello?
Xorblee, one, sees the lights come on, and two, hears Croak's, like, beep, and pokes his head up. Oh, don't touch those. He goes over and pushes the button again, which turns off the light. Try not to touch anything too dangerous, because I am working with sensitive materials here, and you could break something, and I'm already trying to fix something here. Obviously Croak doesn't seem like they're going to be leaving anytime soon, so part of him's like, should I, like, try to start conversation or something?
Hey, Radda, I just rolled a 6 for intelligence. Croak is pressing that same button again.
The lights are back on.
Croak presses it again.
The lights are off.
Croak presses it again.
On.
This goes on for a few seconds because Croak has no idea what the fuck is happening, but they are controlling what they can only assume is a small sun.
On the one hand, Xorblee is like, oh, that's adorable. On the other hand, Xorblee is crossing his arms and being like, are you very much done yet?
Croak presses one last time to turn it off, and then nods.
Okay.
They have controlled the sun.
Congratulations. His eyes do, like, glance towards the Larry mask, that's to Croak's side. So you're a member of the cult as well?
Croak nods their head, but you're free to roll insight.
I'm gonna roll insight.
Yeah.
That is not a good insight.
Croak nods their head. Croak nods their head.
Else, like, Xorblee's like, yeah. Yeah, they seem to be pretty good fellows. Pretty tight-knit community, if I'd say so myself. Just kind of all grouped up there and hanging out with each other. This whole studio full of bigs just kind of hiding away from them all. Kind of reminds me of home. Oh.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
It just kind of reminds me of home a bit, but not quite the same.
Croak walks up to sit next to Xorblee and just looks at them kind of questioningly.
Do you want to roll an insight?
I do want to roll an insight. What is my insight? Oh, hey, insight. Well, I rolled a 1.
It reminds him of home. Where that home is or what that home is, you have no idea, but it reminds him of a place called home.
Got it.
I'd say, so yeah. And roll me a perception check really quickly. He's gonna go back to working on like the mechanic thing, but roll me a quick perception check again.
That's an 11.
That's another 11. I think that'll be enough to let you know that there is like a small pile of junk, or what appears to be junk. It's a lot of metal stuff again, but there's a small pile of junk in like the back corner of the can. Up to you if you want to dig through that or not.
Does anything look vaguely like a stick?
Let me check because I don't actually know.
It doesn't actually have to be a stick. It's just gotta be long, curvy, a little like sort of straight, but not like completely straight. It's just, and it's gotta be like a little thin. It's gotta be thin. It's gotta look like kind of a stick.
I don't actually think Xorblee has any sticks, no.
It doesn't.
I know, it's a major disappointment,
Aww.
but like the most stick-like thing you might be able to find is like a very, like a tiny, in relative to the size of a tiny screw, or a few of those, and those are barely count as sticks.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a bit of a shame that you couldn't find any metal sticks, but
Aww. Is it?
So nope.
Croak. Alright. There is junk in this metal nest. Maybe you should move the junk out of the nest. That'd be helpful. Croak is going to walk up to the pile and attempt to pick stuff up. They are not very strong, so I'm actually gonna roll for this. That's a 17. What do they pick up?
That's not bad. Are you just picking up a single item? Or just a...
They can't fit much in their arms, because their arms are very small, but I'm just gonna pick some stuff up.
So you pick up what appears to be it looks like, it's not like any crossbow you've ever seen. It's more like a, well, for players' sake, it looks like a gun, but it's not even quite a gun because it seems to have some sort of powder inside. Regardless, it's decent. It's like decently hefty. You don't know what this is used for.
Croak's never even seen a crossbow before, so yeah, they have no idea what this is. It is a strange thing, and it's little powdery. It's a little powdery. That's strange. Why is it dusty? This junk pile has probably been here a while. And
well, remember I will say the dust is inside of it. Like the dust is the ammo. For some reason.
Alright.
I don't know if that would change anything.
God.
Dust is dust, right?
God, Croak is about to make such a bad decision. I'm actually gonna roll intelligence for this, because... Alright. Oh. They look very, consideringly at, the barrel. Because, it's powdery. And you know what else is powdery? You know, pollen. do you know what pollen comes from? Flowers. Do you know what flowers have? Nectar. And they kind of like look at it, and they're just like, they look at it for a while, but they do not think that is, they don't think that is pollen. There's probably no nectar in there.
A smart assumption, for once.
Croak is gonna take this strange looking weaponry over to Xorblee and just kind of like stand in front of. By the way, Croak is holding this completely wrong. It's probably like upside down.
Oh yeah, true.
Croak is holding it completely wrong, and they just kind of stand by Xorblee until they get Xorblee's attention.
Eventually, he finds a spot where he can pause his work and glance over. It's like, oh, you found my nanobot, like my nanobot infuser. That's useful. Actually, I might need that for this. Oh, thanks. And he's like reaching over to take it as if he knows exactly what's going on.
Croak has no idea what's going on, but Croak is just gonna give him the nanobot infuser. Croak has no idea what either of those words mean, by the way. But hey, they were helpful. Maybe this junk pile isn't junk, but in fact like things. Useful things. Croak's gonna go back over to the junk pile and try to find something else.
Roll me another perception.
Okay. Hey, that's a 21.
Oh, that's good enough for me to say what thing I want to say. You dig in there enough, and you find another Larry mask. Presumably Xorblee's Larry mask.
Oh, this is great. Croak kind of like holds it, and then holds it above their head to the light, presumably the emergency lights, and so it's like kind of shining through, and then they're gonna walk over to Xorblee and just look back at Xorblee who's working, and then try to like put it on Xorblee's head like a hat.
Xorblee starts a bit at this. He was not expecting that, and he like glances back to see what the heck Croak is even doing.
Croak takes their own Larry mask off their belt, and like this Larry mask doesn't have a strap on it. It has like a string tied to the back of it, and they put it on top of their head like a hat. And now both of them just have Larry mask hats. You can
Xorblee blink. Oh, what?
You can roll another insight on Croak.
A 15.
Xorblee, you have a feeling Croak has no idea what A, a cult is, and B, what the purpose of the masks are.
Xorblee blinks, like taking the mask off of his head and just kind of looking it over. And you can roll insight on like how he's looking over the mask.
Okay.
Well.
Okay. That's a 14.
He's thoughtful about it, but it's hard to tell if he's thinking positively or negatively about it. He's just kind of thinking. He's just looking at the mask and he's thinking.
Croak has just fully sat down next to Xorblee with their mask on top of their head, and they're just kind of, you know, the like little thing kids do where like if they're like sitting with their legs out, they start like swaying them up in the air and like kicking them slightly. They're doing that.
This is normal.
Yeah. They're just chilling with their new friend. The new friend Xorblee.
Xorblee hesitates a bit and he's like, thanks for pulling this out. I had lost it and you had found it. So he sets it on top of the computer keyboard for now, not on top of his head. And he tries to, and he starts working, and he's trying to think of like a good conversation topic to like, because like the bird doesn't know a lot of things. They don't know what a cult is. They don't know what nanobots are. They don't know what the soda can is. They only know that he's a Reelkind.
Yeah.
And he's trying to think of a conversation starter that would fit within the realms of this bird's limited knowledge. Um, and so he kind of glances back at Croak and's like, "So, what do you do around here anyway?"
Uh, Croak kind of sits for a moment to like think of, yeah, what do they do? And then they get an idea and they hop up and they go back to like the front window of the can and like they stick their head out of it in one of their arms and you can hear like the jingling of something outside and then a small little green light just kind of like appears from the outside of the can and then they pull their head back into the can and they are holding a single berry.
Oh,
And they walk over to Xorblee and hand it to Xorblee. And they sit back down.
he'll take it, like kind of surprised. It's like, oh, food.
Yeah.
That's pretty useful. Yeah, that's a pretty useful job. And he's he's debating if he wants to eat this now or later, because on the one hand, he's been working for a while. He could really use a snack, but at the same time, it's a decently sized berry at this point, right? I don't know how
Yeah.
big the berry actually is.
It's the spell Goodberry, so there's definitely more outside, but Croak is not. Their arms are not big enough to hold more than one at a time. So
That answers that question.
yeah.
So it's a big berry. Zorblee's just gonna. Zorblee decides he's gonna like eat half of it and set the other half aside for later.
Yeah. It tastes like nectar. It's a strange taste, but it tastes like nectar.
I mean, the hummingbirds drink nectar, right? So it makes sense that that is the flavor that Croak would go with.
Yeah. And Croak's just kind of vibing. Croak's
Yeah.
vibing here with their new friend Xorblee. Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. Zorblee is also like trying to think. Okay.
Hey, can Croak peek their head at where Xorblee is working?
Sure.
Should I roll a
You want to roll
perception?
a? Yeah.
The 23.
Oh.
It's a 23.
There is a lot of stuff in here. There are wires. There are panels. There are like metal strips. There's like things and stuff. I would describe them more, but Croak doesn't know these things.
No.
But for the sake of the high roll, I will say it's like there's a lot of motherboards and a lot of like intricate connections, maybe some antennae and like antenna cords. Maybe he's like, and he's trying to like link up certain wires to other wires and reorganize some connections. You also notice that he's using the nanobot diffuser. He's spraying dust onto certain parts, and those parts proceed to reform themselves into different parts because
Huh.
nanobots.
Croak is like this with a 23. Croak thinks this is a really good nest. This is a really good nest. Like it's got all the bits in it. It looks smooth on the outside, but it's obviously got a very good structure on the inside. Uh, and they're kind of like nodding and they're like, yeah, this is a good nest structure. Just not out loud because Croak can't speak complete sentences like that. But you can gain their
Nest
inflection.
approved.
Nest approved. And they're just looking in the inside and they're looking at this dust and I don't Croak doesn't know what's going on, but they're gonna pull out they're gonna reach into one of their little bags and they're gonna pull out just it's it's just like a little fistful of pollen and they're gonna hand it to Xorblee.
Zorble's like glancing between the pollen and the the nanobot infuser and back to the pollen. And it's like, I don't think you know how this works. This is like a very specialized kind of dust. It's not pollen. It's not like dust you'd find on the ground. This is like extremely advanced magic dust. That's what it is. Magic dust.
Croak nods their head, and they put their pollen away. Their wing is kind of stained with pollen still, because pollen is very hard to remove. But,
It's yellow.
it's yellow. It's a little yellow, you know. And, they hold out their hand, and, like, a small burst of that green that you saw from the outside of the can just appears out of their hand. This is a magic bird.
Ooh. What spell are they casting?
I didn't really think about that. They're just kind of, like, showing off a magic. I'm gonna say they're using, like, druidcraft.
Okay.
So it's just, it's whatever weather is outside. Like, there's a small burst of green, and then it shows, I'm just gonna say it's cloudy outside. And then it shows, like, a little image of a cloud.
Oh.
And then, like...
Well, look at you, you little meteorologist.
Croak has no idea what that means, but they seem very proud about it.
Oh. Honestly, Xorblee is just having fun seeing Croak, like, enthusiastic about things, because he still doesn't quite know, like, what their end goal is here. They just seem to be here to vibe, and he can approve of that.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
I mean, you can roll another insight check if you really want to, but you're gonna get about the same thing. They're just here to vibe.
Yeah. In that case, I probably won't bother.
Yeah.
Xorblee thinks for a moment. He's like, I assume you weren't always at the studio, right? Because hummingbirds are normally more outdoors creatures, I figure.
And Croak nods their head at the outdoors part. And
mind if I ask, like, how you got here, or is that a bit too personal of a question? Because Xorblee doesn't know.
Croak thinks for a moment. They're thinking because they don't know the words of how to describe this, and so they kind of stand up and they draw an invisible box with their hands, or like the impression of an invisible box, and they go here, and then they take out like a small, it's small even for a tiny, it's a splinter, and they hold it up and they put it in the invisible box, and then they just drop it. Apparently they just walked in.
Fair enough. I honestly don't know what else I expected.
Radda.
Xorblee chuckles a bit awkwardly at that.
Xorblee, with that check earlier, like way at the beginning of knowing birds, you know how animals walk inside places and then they can't find their way out?
Oh no.
You can assume that's exactly how Croak got in here.
Oh no.
Yeah. They just got lost.
Xorblee's like kind of feeling bad for Croak now, because it's like they shouldn't be here. They didn't intend to be here, but they're here now.
Croak?
And
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And he's not really supposed to be here either. If you want, you can roll an insight.
I am rolling an insight. That is not my insight modifier. A 12. Stellar.
There's like a small hint of sympathy in Xorblee's look, but that's about all you can glean from it. Is like he's sympathetic to that situation of just kind of walking into a place.
Croak looks confused at the sympathy. Like they tilt their head in a confused manner. Because
well,
no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Croak seem to mind being here. Like, in this can, with you, or anywhere. They don't seem to mind.
Huh. Xorblee was about to say, like, it's a shame you got lost and maybe you could find your way home, but then it suddenly clicks in his mind. Maybe Croak's just a wanderer. That, like, Croak just goes where, like, things take them, and it's like, that honestly makes a lot more sense, and it would explain why they're so, like, okay with being lost.
Yeah.
And Xorblee's not as much of a wanderer, but still, he understands it. So he kind of, like, nods his head, and it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And you seem to be enjoying your time here. So I'd say good destination to end up at.
Croak nods, but they do look at you and enjoy time?
Me?
Croak nods.
And he thinks about it for a second. Because he's been here a few months, and yeah, he showed up. He ended up, like, getting accepted into the cult and everything, and yeah. But he's been getting a tiny bit homesick, so you think that, and the last thing he did was in the dark. And considering how that went, that's probably going to skew some things a bit. And he's like, could be better, could be better.
Hey, roll an insight. Alright.
Xorblee is not insightful.
Alright, Croak just nods. Croak just nods. Like, yeah, things could be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're gonna sit back down next to Xorblee again. Because I assume they probably stand up at some point to do the demonstration.
Yeah. Here's a question. It probably isn't that important to you, but does it feel weird, like, being like a Reelkind among all these tunes? Like, I don't know if it's like, because, like, we're the only two Reelkind in this whole situation. You think? I don't know. You ever just kind of feel like sometimes you don't fit in or something?
You're free to roll another insight on the bird, but the bird is thinking about it. Oh boy. Hey, that's a 15. That's good. You don't think this bird quite understands the difference between Reelkind and Toonkind yet? Just that there is a difference, and that it probably has something to do with something, but they don't exactly know there's a major difference. And this Croak just believes that y'all just here. Y'all just existing. And they just kind of shrug.
Xorblee's starting to wish he couldn't think as much, because Croak seems to be living the life. So he's like, okay, yeah, you probably wouldn't understand that, but it's like, you probably haven't watched any cartoons either. Nah, that's...
Croak tilts the head at the cartoon part.
Xorblee gets an idea and takes a break from, like, working on the side of the, like, the panel, and goes over to the keyboard and hits another one of the buttons, which turns on the monitor, which already might be a big revelation to Croak that this thing is another source of light, but also a moving image. And then he pulls up, just kind of off a whim, a random cartoon he has down there. It could be one of the engineers' movies. It could be something, like, just randomly from home or something. it doesn't really matter. The point is, it is an animated video.
Croak looks at it in surprise, and then just kind of like scrambles up to the screen, and then puts one of their feathers, not the pollinated one, but just one of their feathers on the screen.
It is flat. It is. You cannot go into the screen. It's just like a sheet of glass.
Croak got tricked by a spoon. Croak is following the characters like physically. So if like they move to the right of the screen, Croak moves to the right of the screen. If they move to the left of the screen, they move to the left.
Xorblee is just like, he doesn't say this out loud, but he's just like, God, they really are a bird.
This is just a real ass bird. It's just a bird.
He's like, he has all of these thoughts rolling around in his mind, and at this point, the only person he's sharing them with is somebody who legitimately cannot understand any of them. And he's like, is it even worth to continue talking?
Croak looks at you with their little bird face.
A bird face.
Yeah. It's not. You can get the feel. You don't even have to roll for this. You get the feeling that they're processing words, but they don't exactly know what everything means. Not yet. They are a bird.
Okay. Xorblee takes a moment to think about the best way to explain this. Where I'm from, we don't just have tunes walking around. People have to draw these things. Every single individual moment is a drawing. It's like he hits another button and it pauses. This frame was drawn, he hits the button again and it pauses immediately again. This frame was drawn, and so on and so forth. It's just weird to see them just walking around for me. And still, I'm getting used to it the longer I'm here, but it's just kind of like I've gone from being an like part of the audience to suddenly like being thrust into a cartoon is still just a bit jarring to me. That's maybe that's just me.
Croak doesn't quite understand the reasoning, but they do understand emotions, and so with one of their like wing arms, they're gonna pat Xorblee. Actually, they're gonna pat
Yeah.
Xorblee like right against the face. Pat.
Yeah, you don't even like, if you roll insight.
Roll insight. It's a nice friendly pat. It's very soft.
Yeah.
It's
Xorblee doesn't mind the pat.
I roll a 13. That's a 13.
You remember how like one could describe Croak's scenario as lost?
Yeah.
One could also describe Xorblee's scenario as lost.
Oh, jeez. Alright. Okay. Croak takes both hands and pats Xorblee. Xorblee now has a light amount of pollen on his face.
Xorblee can't help but like just chuckle at it, like trying to dust some of the pollen off. He's like, yeah, you sort of get it. You sort of get it. He's mostly just telling this to himself so that he's like at least slightly vindicated in like his efforts to ramble to the bird.
Yeah. And Croak is still looking at you. Croak's a Reelkind. Their beak doesn't move, like, but their posture, just they're here now. They're here.
They're here.
It's just, they're here.
Yeah.
And, I have a question about Xorblee's chair. Just real fast.
Go ahead.
Does it have armrests on it?
It, yes, it does. Yes, it does.
All right. Croak takes. It's a very weird step because birds have 3 knee joints, but they step on top of the armrest and they kind of like stand on it like a perch. It
That is
doesn't.
probably a that is probably very cramped considering relatively low ceiling.
It's Croak's small,
It's fine. It's fine.
but
Croak
they,
crouch.
yeah, that's how they sit. Uh, but yeah, it doesn't like move the chair or anything. Croak weighs less than a penny, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
they're just sitting watching watching the the rectangle, the moving rectangle. They don't know how it works, but man, is it sure moving.
It is moving, and those are tunes on the screen. It's like they're definitely recognizable as tunes, but they don't seem to be any of the tunes in the cult or even in the studio. But
Yeah,
it's a big world. There might be other tunes out there,
yeah,
and that's probably who these are.
yeah. Croak doesn't know
Um,
many bigs.
nah. Um, Xorblee glances back to his what he was working on. He probably should finish that up soon. Uh, he glances over to Croak. All right, can I trust you not to hit any more buttons while I finish this up? Just really quick.
Croak nods.
All right, cool, thanks. And so he crouches down back with his nanobot infuser, and he is continuing to reconnect wires and stuff. And because the screen is on, you it starts fizzling out a bit, like static sort of comes on when he's affecting something that's more closely related to the screen. It's it's a bit dangerous to be working with wires and stuff while it's on, but he seems confident that the ones he's working with are not the ones that are active. That's why it's kind of like an emergency mode.
Yeah.
Um uh Here's a question. Do you want to start wrapping things up here, or do you want to bring the shenanigans on a little longer?
I don't really have any more thoughts. I do have one more thought actually, but that's like an end thing.
Um, okay. Um,
I don't mind either way.
I do have a thing that I want to close out the FPS with, so you can probably do your ending thought first, and then I'll put in my ending thought.
All right. Croak was watching this television, but it's just a lot of people moving across. It's a lot of colors at this point. They've lost track of what's happening like 10 times now. So they're gonna hop off the side of the chair and they're gonna walk back over to Xorblee and they're gonna pap him on the face again and go, "Good nest. Good nest."
Yeah, Zorba nods in appreciation. He doesn't quite know what the face pats mean, but it's he's kind of just assumed it to be kind gesture,
Yeah.
so he'll take it. But as he connects one last wire, the screen stops showing the image. It seems to be like it seems like the screen went black.
Oh.
It seems to have briefly stopped working, but you didn't push the button that turns on the screen. So, what did you do? You didn't do anything. However, some text appears in a language that Croak does not understand. Nobody of this world would be able to understand this. But when this text appears, Xorblee pauses from his work and gets up and looks at the screen, and his eyes widen a bit, and a smile creeps onto his face. And he kind of just He says it quietly to himself. He's not really talking to Croak with this, but he just kind of mutters to himself, "Connection successful." And we're gonna end it there.
Yay! Oh, that's lovely.
That was a lot more chill than I expected it, to be honest, but I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll take it too. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Xorblee got to get some of his thoughts out, and Croak got to push some buttons
girl got to
and
push.
make a friend.
Yeah, yeah, your Croak's fun now. There's no going back from this. They will visit
Oh
you.
dear.
All right. Should we end the recording now?
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Well, see you around. See you next session or whenever that is.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.